Hello and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and I'm finally reviewing Anyone But You. This is a 2023 romantic comedy that stars Sydney Sweeney and Glen Powell. It's currently available on Netflix and has audio description created by Motion Picture Solutions, written and narrated by Andrea Breton. She did both. Look at her. What an amazing power duo. I can't create a word out of that. I'm sorry. Just trying to create narrator. I don't know. I don't know how to merge that. But click subscribe for word creation. Andrea Breton. I've definitely heard her work on some other things that was not a name that just popped into my head. Um, was interesting watching a movie with a predominantly American cast set in Australia with a British narrator. That was fun. Um, but I felt like I was getting it all. I'm like, wow, it's all things at the same time. I probably should have seen this when it came out so that there was less hype around it, because basically for has it been 6 months? It's been 6 months since this thing came out. Damn. Um, I've heard nothing but praise for this. Just people who are like, yeah, romantic comedy is dead, but Anyone But You is good. It has revived the rom-com genre. And listen, I want it revived as much as you do. Uh, this is from director Will Gluck, who has brought us Easy A. He's also brought us Friends with Benefits. So this is a little bit more along the lines of Friends with Benefits, where it feels less like it's going to become an iconic classic. Easy A feels a little bit more like it's got that feel like it's going to be something that people continue to watch, sort of like how people are obsessed with Mean Girls. Easy A feels like we're going to be talking about it for a while. It does help that Emma Stone's in it. But this is, yeah, this doesn't feel like it's Pretty Woman or I don't know. What's your favorite rom-com? It doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's the next tier down, which is fine. But before we go throwing crowns on Glen Powell and Sydney Sweeney for being the next greatest rom-com couple, let's talk about the movie. Boobs. Just want to point that out. Boobs. Boobs. A little bit of penis, but mostly boobs. Uh, I'm a blind film critic, and I'm mostly here to talk about audio description. But the gay critic in me is finds it weird that I am having to mention boobs to you, but they do bring boobs up a lot in this. This poor character Margaret is poor actress is uniquely tasked with for some reason needing to show her chest quite frequently throughout the film. And the audio description lets us know when it would be visible for us. Uh, Luckily, Andrea doesn't get creepy into it and go round and supple and it doesn't. Nothing weird, nothing like that. Just you can see them, right here in this scene. There they are. Um, and I don't know why that's the thing that sticks out for me in this whole film, but maybe it's because this film is just sort of like a weird. It feels like a weird mess. Like they try to introduce this idea that these two people don't like each other going into this wedding. Like somehow two people who casually met and were like, nah, later on find themselves at the same wedding. And both of them are in a situation where it would behoove them if they could pretend to like each other for different reasons. Um, they both have something to gain out of what they think of, another relationship. Plus, their parents are there, and they keep some people are trying to put them together to begin with, And they're like, well, why don't we just pretend? Because then they'll get them off our back, and then we can work our way through these other things we're trying to get through. And they're like, all right, let's do it. Of course, it's a rom-com, so you know where things are going to go. I mean, it's really not that surprising. Um, so in the supporting cast, we've got like Rachel Griffiths and Brian Brown and Michelle Hurd. Just some pretty decent standbys in the supporting cast in terms of actors. But yeah, this is mostly Glen Powell and Sydney Sweeney. Glenn is a lot funnier than this. He's really toning it down for this role because he has to play the sexy romantic comedy leading man, and he has gone way over the top before. And anybody who's ever seen his performance in Scream Queens knows just how funny Glenn can be. Now, I don't know about Sydney Sweeney because this girl has come up out of a mostly dramatic career, so I don't really know where her range goes um, in terms of comedy, but I always felt like Glen Powell was being held back, like was being told, no, don't do that. No, keep it. No, don't start screaming. No, just remember you're a man. Be a manly man. It's like, yeah, okay. Like the movie's cute and they have like a cute dynamic. But it's hard to have seen Glen Powell's resume of films and to not feel like that this dude could have brought 10 times more to the role if somebody had just been like, hey, we've seen your stuff. You're really funny. Like, you really have the ability to go there. Why don't you? And here he's far too concerned. The director, Will Gluck, seems way too concerned with making him the hunky leading man so that the women in the audience are... And they don't find enough time and enough space for him to do some of the stuff that he's done before that he is really good at. This is obviously, these are two people who I think are about to blow up in terms of stardom. Glenn is anchoring the new Twisters reboot, and he's hot off Top Gun Maverick. So, I mean, he's got, and this did really well at the box office, especially for a film starring them. He has every possibility in the world of being the next big thing. But, Tom Hanks allowed himself to be goofy at times, and it didn't hurt his career. I think Glen Powell could have brought some of the goofiness in the early part of his career when people didn't know he was going to blow up, and then brought that to this role, and the film would have been better for it. Instead of them being so concerned about him coming across as a certain way. Your hunky leading man. It's just, okay, cool. But he's just capable of more, That's how I felt the whole time. I felt like they were holding him back and telling him, no, don't do that, do this instead. He probably was like, no, I could make this funny if you wanted me to, but I won't. The audio description is fine. It's a rom-com. It's pretty easy. They're actually pretty much at one location. It's just where the description comes in and is in the fact that it's Australia and it's beautiful. And man, when they went in the water, I was just like, isn't there shit in the water in us? Why are we spending so much time in the water? I've always heard about like all of the Australia is all this stuff that can kill you, right? All the little spiders and snakes, and the water is full of jellyfish and stuff. Like I just keep hearing stuff about, sharks, and they're just like having scenes where they're just like floating out in the water, and I'm like, I know they probably had a dive team, for water scenes. I know that they probably checked the water in advance, but I could have seen this movie going like horribly wrong, where they're about to do their water scenes and they're like getting stung by jellyfish. It's just like I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those destination wedding type things where people, if they're at a wedding that's off in Australia and it's pretty and extravagant and completely unrelatable for the majority of the audiences, but escapism is so much a part of. I love that I hear that complaint all the time where they're like, oh, they're wealthy people, we can't relate. It's called escapism, man. Like, I don't want to watch a whole bunch of people who are like middle lower class getting married in backyard weddings. Like, that's not a genre of film. Like, people want to see locations that they themselves dream of going to. They may never get to go there, but there's something to be said for being able to show these locations and describe these locations to people instead of just being like, and they walk out in their backyard and there's a tent set up. It's not really a tent, it's just kind of like a sheet, but it's a bed sheet. And then, I mean, it's like you can get really depressing and dark with a realistic, you know, uh, romantic comedy that does think of stuff like, ooh, we got to make these characters relatable. Uh, no, you don't. Not really. Movies are escapism. We have plenty of movies that will ignore escapism for realistic storytelling. It doesn't need to be a movie like this. This movie is like marshmallow fluff. It just is what it is, and that's what this genre has been missing. And I'm telling you that saving this genre is not going to be bringing realism to rom-coms. That is not what saves the rom-com genre. That is, the rom-com genre has always thrived on having extravagance within it in whatever way it can possibly have, so that you can see the beautiful locations and the beautiful people and the beautiful things that they do. And to be fair, that's what this has. So this has a lot of that in there. um I didn't have a problem with the film. It's just not a, I don't feel like this rewrote the rom-com genre quite like some people did. Some people felt like this came in and just like, whoa, this is the best thing in 20 years. Not really. I mean, this feels like more like Friends with Benefits, which I thought was perfectly fine. And just, it feels like the tier down, like if there's a top tier of, your sort of like classic rom-coms that, you put on all the time, there's a tier below that. I think everybody would agree Pretty Woman and Runaway Bride are not on the same tier. This is Runaway Bride. Actually, maybe it's a little bit better than Runaway Bride. Runaway Bride might be 2 tiers below Pretty Woman, but you get what I'm saying. Um, so yeah, if you want to watch it, it's on Netflix. I thought Andre did a nice job with the audio description. She's very just sort of level-headed and relaxed, but she's not so disconnected to where it feels like she's inappropriate for the genre. I mean, she's not goofy, but she's also not like droning. She didn't put me to sleep with her narration either. It was a perfect balance and it worked well. And I just found it funny because she has a British accent, and this film takes place in Australia, and we have a predominantly American cast, that are here for this Australian one. Anyway, it's just like, it felt this like weird amalgamation of voices, because there are a couple Australian people here that have the Australian voices, and just like everything coming together. I was like, of course there's a British voice here. Why wouldn't there be? Anyway, um, so give this a look-see, but temper your expectations. Don't, I know your friends, I guess, haven't seen a rom-com in 20 years, so they were just like, wow, this is amazing. All I've seen are random Netflix rom-coms, which are borderline awful. And then comes this, and it went theatrical, and they're just so excited for this. And yeah, it's fine. One of these days we'll get the right people together for a film that will feel wholly original, that will have a unique premise, and somebody will think of something and it'll pop, it'll hit, it'll be great. I I can feel it. This just is kind of what we've seen before, and it kind of works. So I'm going to give Anyone But You a B. Yeah, that's fine. I'm glad I saw it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.